Okay. So. I mean, Nixon is still the president. The 1962 Civil Rights Act has not, they've not taken that yet. I don't know exactly when they will. I think sometime soon would make sense, but I don't know 100% when that'll happen. A retaliatory Japanese attack on the Philippines. Rip sat the vote down and thought for a moment. This was an opportunity that he'd been dreaming of. Clandestine arms sales, blackmail, propaganda, disinformation. A spiderweb of stratagems sprung up to the fore of his secretive mind. And yet, Rip hesitated. These were not the scattered irregulars of dubious loyalties that they were used to puppeteering. The Imperial Japanese Army was a different beast entirely. Perhaps in the past, Rip would be excited for such an opportunity. But the ongoing proxy conflicts had worn on him, and his resources as it is. To take on cloak and dagger maneuvers against such a foe would risk toppling his schemes elsewhere. Loyal's limit was vital to ensuring smooth operations, and as it stood, that task was far above his pay grade. Rip picked up the phone again and responded without a hint of emotion. I think it's time to take our leave from the Philippines, Lich. We've done our part, and the Filipinos are on their own. As the receiver clicked, Rip felt a pang of lament, and a sense of self-doubt that he hadn't felt in some time. Was it for the people of the Philippines, or for the ploys that would never come to pass? In the end, it didn't matter. The thoughts fled before the wave of amber whiskey and the thick smoke of a Cubano cigar. There's no looking back, only forward. Okay, so what do we have here then next? Burn documents. I guess we'll burn documents first. I think that makes sense. I mean, you give us command power. But I mean, the war's almost... I mean, are you already at war? Not yet. You gain legitimacy. The thing is, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll take it. I mean, it gives us 60. It pays us back. So I feel like we might as well, even though burning documents makes more sense in the short term. Martial law has been declared in Kampuchea. Whatever. that is such a non issue for me. Like I could not care less about that. Okay. And we got heavy German forces here. I don't know if maybe somewhere else would make sense. Like maybe this line would work. Japan's pushing in there already. So maybe our efforts are best focused on this side of the map. Hard to say. 5960. These are actual German troops. These are not Malaysian divisions. Okay, all along the watchtower. Winter in Antarctica was always rough. Due to its position in the Earth, its winter time was a perpetual night. In the morning, or at least... Oh no, it was the morning, or at least Private Terrence thought it was. He had been woken up recently, regardless, and was enjoying a warm cup of coffee. He took a moment to watch his steam glisten as it was illuminated on the electrical lights. Even in these times, coffee remained a comfort for him. He just finished his cup when he heard his friend Walter shout, "They're here!" followed by a sound of alarm bells. Quickly, he had set his cup aside, grabbed his rifle, and ran to the Pikrit ball. Looking over the wall, revealed by the searchlights, there are a few Japanese snowcrawlers. Terrorists, along with a few others, began to fire warning shots at once. The snowcrawlers began to swerve away from the gunfire. Realizing the situation, it had turned around and began to retreat, and the others followed with it. When the alarm stopped, Terrence headed back to get a second cup of coffee. Had the Japanese not been polite enough to let him get his first one, he might not have been willing to fire only warning shots. Okay. Get a little bit more controlled administration for the Americans. How many points do we have? These all seem like decent numbers. Germany is going to get more legitimacy, because if you remember when our legitimacy at 0, they get like a big boost of it. And presumably that is still going to be the case when these finish in 29 days. You know, they actually might have hit 0 naturally. You know, I think that's entirely possible as well. But I think we also want to spend some points going into Japanese territory. You know, I think that just makes sense. You know, it's like while we're here, right? We might as well. Painstakingly poring over the piles of rocks all day was not something most people considered a full-time job. But during her second winter in Antarctica, studying the dry valleys west of McMurdo Station, it was Lewis's only work. Fall had been different, preparing to lead a research team, coordinating with her doctoral advisor back in Columbus, and securing a grant money had created the most hectic month of her life. All while she continued to collect samples and instruments and readings from the dry valley periodically. Winter's onset had signaled the end of the constant planning. Inside, Lois was hunkering down to tackle the mounds of stones and minerals that accumulated in her laboratory. She had been started writing her dissertation, though the process on it would be minimal until she had finished examining this year's haul from the valleys. Sighing, she stood and stretched her back out, certain that looking into the microscope was made to give researchers spinal pain. Picking up a coffee Mark had brought just moments ago, she realized it had lost its steam. And sipping it clarified the moment was more likely hours. Either way, coffee is coffee. She stared at the window with incessant snowfall, and Lois contemplated the future. For now, she was biding her time, waiting for September and the fateful arrival that would heap a new set of responsibilities and concerns onto her shoulders. Thinking about where her life might go next, she couldn't help but smirk. Despite what some said, she hadn't gone into academia for the boring existence, and spring was going to be anything but. Well, hoy fort, we're playing the New Order. As the lovely, lovely state. Well, it's not really a state. We're playing as Antarctica. We're having a grand old time, I would say. Things are looking good. So how is the Chilean powder keg exploded? That sounds bad, because we're trying to be friends with Chile. So Chile, are you in... You're in a bit of a crisis, it seems. Rural collapse, stability minus 30%. I mean, that's not great for you. I think we can be honest with that. Again, our units should be good. I don't know. I can't expect that we'll get, pushed out. Oh, now that you've wasted all your supplies trying to kill me. There we go. That works out wonderfully in my favor. I'm happy to see it. By the way, did Japan actually attack the Philippines? Not yet, at least. Not yet. But they might do so soon. See if we can cut off their supply at their retreat. We can. Fantastic. And we're about to actually take the capital of Trier. I don't know if that's going to be a definitive end to the war, but... I mean, that's kind of looking like it. I don't know. There's the way, like, the... Okay, never mind. I was going to say, there's kind of like the way the map changes when you actually win. That didn't actually apply here. Indifferent. David Mayers dusted the last of the snow off his clothes before promptly sinking into his bunk. Touching the radio, he adjusted it to 104.5 and sat down on its nightstand. The radio and a long nap were just the best remedies for to a long day of work on the frozen frontier. Music had been exquisite this day. Funk, pop, even some folk songs graced Davy's ears. The tired soldier was about to drift into deep sleep when the music was interrupted. Groaning, he opened his eyes and adjusted the pillow, listening to whatever news he had deemed important enough to interject the music session. Good evening! This is 104.5 Incredible FM. The voice, who marries her down to the Australian or the New Zealander, ran on with the introductions. Get well on with it already, the exhausted listener groaned. We received concerning news that the 14th Army of Japan has returned to the Philippines. That's right! The war has broken out once again in a few short weeks after kicking them off of Luzon Island with the well-executed, self-dubbed Balantawak Blitz. David sighed, trying to drift off once more, but he couldn't help but linger on the news. Analysts believe that this fragile coalition between the United States forces and the Filipino socialists can repel the U.S. forces. This final time. Then Tokyo will give up. I can't report more on the situation at the moment, but I can guarantee that both sides are giving it all that they've got. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, he's already sleeping. He's not going to hear that news report. Okay, the president of Chile has resigned. Again, I want to stay on the coast here. And how is this war actually looking? They are down to 20%. So they would normally be pretty close to capitulating, but they're not quite there yet. Again, he found himself staring out the window. The sun stood low in the sky, and the icy expanse glowed shades of orange and reds into the horizon. Edward had been planning to take another long nap as the tracked vehicle drove back to Camp Century. But today the ride was a bit shaddier than usual. Yeah, that's what I heard, Soldier said next one whispered. Some kind of bunker in case nukes go flying. For the president, I figure. Sneers and whispers were heard all over the bus. But why does the president need so many tunnels, huh? A soldier near the front retorted. I think they're trying to colonize the Arctic. We're building a test colony. One of the back blurted out his thoughts. Soon, the hushed conversation developed into a shouting match, as all passengers shot their theories and suspicions in the air. Theories about Camp Century, part that Edward wanted to sleep, but he couldn't lie, and say that he wasn't at least a little bit curious, too. Everybody was, apparently. Even their guesses weren't particularly sound. Look, I bet we're making some kind of space thingy. Think about it. We're up north. That's closer to the stars. What do you think, Ed? The soldier next to him tapped his shoulder, bringing Edward out of his head. His eyes were suddenly on him. Gulping, he realized that while he was curious, he never really developed a detailed scenario. He took a moment to compose and answer. I don't really know what we're doing, he said, and turned to see the sun again. But it's big, and we won't know how big it is anytime soon. Maybe that's a good thing, he pondered. Again, I'm pretty sure it's to make sure we have nuclear weapons closer to... closer to Europe. I have to imagine that's the main play here. Okay, there's a Japanese invasion of Philippines. Do we know how many troops you have? 1 to 6? I mean, our numbers should just be overwhelming. Okay, so there's a Japanese invasion. Now, Japan is really, really strong when it comes to the Filipinos. Okay? We learned that last time. Chances are we're not going to win anything. No, that seems a little unlikely. There's a retaliatory invasion. Got another Japanese unit moving down here. Verona Conference ended. Coming the future of the Italian Empire. Okay, interesting developments apparently. More people are going to war with each other. Japan has overrun that division, which I think works for us. I just want you to, like, die. That'll work out well for me. Digging for the evidence. Frost accumulated on the window frame, while the glass was foggy and translucent. Bowman pressed his hand onto the window, stared at the hazy streams of light that could only be seen from the outside. There had been little to see, even though the windows wasn't murky. Just a few months of darkness, Bowman thought bitterly. He was determined to not be affected like he was last winter. But the situation seemed even more precarious than June of last year. Combating issues with the reactor was one thing. The problem inside the crew was a whole different beast. So I found these records, Jeremy called out, appearing from one of the hallways of a line cabinet. Like I told you, nothing really suspicious, Wellman nodded, taking a look at the pile of folders and papers that Jeremy spent the past hours scrounging up. He'd gotten used to his colleagues' sudden appearances. Are you sure a couple of missing tools is worth all this trouble, Jeremy asked, not really expecting an answer. Wellman frowned, adjusting his glasses. Papers detailed information of all personnel working under him. Tools had gone missing, the filtration system was mysteriously malfunctioning, even the lights in the facility were going out once in a while. It was seriously delayed their work, and none of it can be happening before. At least not before a new engineer crew arrived. Either something was wrong with his colleagues, or something was wrong with his head. One was a bit too proud to consider the latter, so... even if so far, the records hadn't given any clues. Do I need to increase security more? Let me just take a quick look at our stats here. I want to make sure we're not freaking anything up. Still looking good. We still have so much supplies as well. Yeah, allocate additional supplies. How much? Okay, we have decent militarization. We'll increase security again. And we'll spend more supplies on you guys. And I think that seems worthwhile. Currently, we have no operations available. 2 days for all these German ones. 18 days for the 2 Japanese ones. And that should crater Japan. They should be in a situation where... This will probably go back up to 50 points, because that's what happens when you go down to 0. But if we can get it to happen twice... Oh, then we maybe have something interesting going on there. First, a trickle. Howard Beale was the last to arrive at the emergency meeting called by Rear Admiral Reedy. Sorry I'm late, he said. My secretary failed to impress upon me the urgency of the situation. What happened? Reedy was on the phone, and he covered the mouthpiece and told Bale to take a seat while between Vice Admiral Reborn and Edward Hillary, which he did. Some 10 minutes later, Reedy finally hung up the phone and exhaled heavily. Our outposts on the border with Yugoslavia are reporting something troubling. Apparently, a small group of Weimar personnel have shown up, unarmed, and are requesting asylum. Is it a clear-cut case of defection? Asked Reborn. This isn't some kind of ruse. Reedy shrugged. The outpost commander, Lieutenant Ryan Lush, made it clear that these men looked like death. They had been, they would have had to take careers overland route to avoid their own border patrols. Bale threw open his hands. Why would they want to defect? One of our men, Sergeant Bird, at the Ford outpost, said Reedy, speaks a little German. It seems like factionalism and backstabbing the Reich is getting worse. The defectors believe that they will be liquidated upon the Führer's death, or at the very least, they don't want to live in a Reich without him. Hillary chuckled. So we're stuck babysitting in them. That's rich. More to the point, the CIA wants us to transport them to McMurdo immediately. But my present concern is that this trick will turn into a flood. I'm worried that these defectors' superiors will want them back. There could be major international incidents on the border should the things on the right get any worse. Well, I just hope that they don't. A good, solid plan. Cohesion is currently at 42. Honestly, it's not bad. How much points do we have? We have 100 legitimacy? Oh my, okay. Legitimacy is looking great. More cohesion, more cohesion, more cohesion, please. We'll spend a little bit of militarization. We'll spend the extra 40 political power again, because we definitely, we can. And that seems good. Very, very, very happy to take it. Mission type tactics. We have 40 points. Does it make any sense to do anything else with the Philippines? I mean, let's burn documents. I think that makes sense, at least a little bit. Everything else, hard to say. Give a definitive answer on that. A run through the jungle. Baton Island had been silent the last few days since the heavy fighting took place in Luzon. With the AFSR weighing hard on the collaborators' defenses and towards Manila, one of the few of the remains as sentinel on the island. Rome was hoping for news from the front, news about the liberation of his beloved homeland, but the lack of information was making him nervous. He was relieved to hear a helicopter in the distance, but his relief turned to horror when he realized the transport wasn't one of theirs. Then, it opened fire, and the bunker he was guarding exploded. It didn't take him half a second to drop his weapon and run into the jungle. Roman knew who was responsible. The Americans, the CIA, operatives who had shown up before the war to provide assistance. And they were the only ones to know about where the secret base was. And they had come to clean the scene. The terrified sentinel was now aimlessly wandering through the jungle. The sun was setting, and there had been no sign of helicopters since the attack. Surely they were gone. A branch cracked somewhere to his left. Roman ran and heard another branch crack behind him. They were after him. It only took, if only he could reach Bosco. Then he took a hard right turn and heard a swear behind him. But closer, there were... He lost his breath and tripped on a root. Then it crawled forward frantically. He was desperate to get away. A boot found itself crushing his left hand, and Roman looked up, only to recognize the American that he had almost shot last time. We meet again, Morgan grimaced, before turning him on his back. The Hawk tried to crawl back, but bumped to a second man. Morgan cocked his gun and shot Roman in the belly without ceremony. Before his accomplice stuck a katana through the wound, exposing the bowels and letting a sentinel fall to the ground. I know you, Roman fainted, seeing the two Americans abandon him with the sword. Commie scum, Morgan replied, spitting on the dying man for walking away without a look back. Tying up loose ends. What is this song? Wow, it's pretty good. I think we'll probably go maybe another 10 minutes. Would be my guess here before we end the stream for today. Doctrines available. Let's go with you. Okay, hold position for a second. Now you are a little bit weak, and we don't really have supplies to reinforce you, which is not great. By the way, how are you still alive? You need to go down to 5%, which I mean is quite low. America has sent volunteers, but I mean they're encircled. I think they're gonna die. I would not be surprised. But I mean, if they die, the AI can just send more volunteers. So it's not like it's the worst thing in the world for us. We need to take like these two cities. 600 defense. I don't have supplies, right? Like logistics. No, we're low on that kind of stuff. Yeah, we can't fight when there's 2 divisions. 2 divisions is too much. Incoming mail. Mr. Matthew Chow, McMurdo Station, Antarctica. Private Matthew Chow, it is with the deepest regret that I must inform you that your brother, Corporal Thomas Chow, a member of my division, has been missing in action since the engaging in a firefight on the 29th of August, 1963. We're just going to express my feelings of the division over the absence of your brother, since he was a very popular member of the organization. We are proud to say that we were comrades in arms with him. We shall always consider him a member of our division. We would appreciate receiving from you any news that you may receive from him. All of us sincerely hope that you will be reunited with him on his very near future. We will keep you updated with his status, should his status change. Sincerely yours, Major Joel Gremnar. MIA beats KIA any day. I mean, their legitimacy is so bad still. I just want to look at our stats. Again, we need more militarization on our part. So we're going to have to spend at least some of our supplies doing this. But the rest, again, we're going to do expeditions in the enemy territory. Again, we don't need the legitimacy, but the point is that it decreases the AI's legitimacy. And I think that's going to be good for us. Probably. I mean, they're almost at our capital. And they've actually recaptured some major cities in the north, which is annoying. I think the AI doesn't know how to really deal with these front lines with, like, the mountains, which is a pain in the ass. And I think it's an issue we ran into last time as well. Is that these front lines are a little bit bad for the AI to deal with. Okay. Launch Day Blues. Vice Admiral Reborn, sequestered in a bunker to the seat of the launch site, observed the stack and fueled missile through a pair of binoculars, wreathed in mist. It's only 1/10 the size of what the final vehicle would be, and nowhere near powerful enough to reach the Kármán line, but it was powerful enough to reach the supersonic speed. When designing the frame of a rocket, it was important to learn how the frame would behave when it reached maximum dynamic pressure. If the frame was poorly designed, the rocket would crumple up like a tin can. A miniature rocket required only a miniature launch site, and the impromptu one had been assembled a few miles inland from McMurdo. Reborn had seen many rocket launches. Never got old. The long wait, the building anticipation, the final little breathless second before the engines ignite, and the impossible otherworldly climb into the heavens. His thoughts were soured by the notion that he had lived in a world where such incredible machines were used as deterrents. Weapons of mass destruction to hold tyrants at bay. He hoped he lived long enough to see them when rockets were used as tools of peace and exploration. But for now, he had to create the most effective weapon possible. "We would go for launch," said launch director over the intercom. Reborn nodded to himself. The countdown reached 0, and a blazing fire lit up the Antarctic snow. A miniature rocket climbed into the sky, and beyond sight, a roaring success. Now, they could proceed with development on a full-sized missile. Max Q, vehicle is supersonic. Okay, so all our times have decreased, which I think is good. Do we know? 21 days until expected arrival, 128 days. I think the numbers are very much in our favor. But I will say, do I have slots available? No. I will say that I think right now is a really good time for us to end this stream.